before Easter, you know, because it's almost Easter and I found the best Easter prize. And oh, and Clifford's Happy Easter. I forgot that we were going to be learning about more fractions today. You know, I'm just getting so excited for that Easter bunny to come hopping along the path. But okay, enough about that. Let's get on to our lesson for the day. So today we are working with fractions again. And if you have your fraction bars handy, why don't you hit pause and go grab those. Otherwise, you just need your journal today. So we'll get into that presenting mode. While you're gathering your materials, you can hit pause or you can just hang with me until I get where we need to go. So here we go. We are working on number lines today. And really they are pretty much the same as your fraction bars or your fraction strips. So we are on page 229 in that journal of yours. So when we look at the top, we have a whole. A whole fraction bar is the distance from 0 to 1. That would be a whole. That's easy, right? Or 1. So when we look at the next fraction number line, we see we're working with halves. Well, halves mean that we're working with something over 2. So this would be 0 halves because it's 0. Now, if we look all the way to the other end, this would really be 1. Well, how many halves are equal to 1? 2, right? 2 halves are the same as 1 whole because you're coloring the whole thing. So now, what would come between 0 halves and 2 halves? And you can draw a line right down the middle. Anyone? Hello? Anyone out there know the answer? Eli? Yes, Eli, 1 half. Now you'll notice it's about equal from the 0 to the 1 half, and it's about equal from the 1 half to the 1 or the 2 halves. So we have 2 equal parts. Halfway would be 1 half. Okay. All right, this is probably going to get easier now as we go. So now if we look at our number poster, we're dealing with fourths. So we're working with fourths. So this would be 0 fourths, would be the 0 line. And over here where the 1 would be, we know that we have 4 fourths. And 4 fourths is equal to 1, which would be equal to 2 halves. Now the easiest way sometimes is to find the midway point. So we know that we want to break this number line into 4 equal pieces. So I'm going to put a line there. And I'm going to put a line there. And I'm going to put a line about there. Now, if it's not perfect, it's okay. So let's see if we have 4 parts. So here's 1 part. Here's 2 parts. And 3 parts. And we end, of course, with 4 parts. So if this is 1 part, this would be 1 of the 4 parts. If this is 2 parts, this would be 2 of the 4 parts. And you got it, Eve. This would be 3 of our 4 parts. So there you have it, my friends, 3 of our 4 parts. And of course, that would be 4 of our 4 parts. So who knows what would be the same as 1 half when we're talking about fourths? Anyone? Anyone? Parker? Yeah, Parker, you got it. 2 fourths is the same as 1 half. All right, let's stroll down now over here. Okay, so we're working with eighths. So we know that we're going to have 0 eighths. And we know over here we're going to have 8 eighths. Because we're working with eighths, we need to divide our number line into 8 parts. I have 4 parts, so now I'm going to put a couple more in. So that would be a couple more. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to hop count this one. So we've got 1 part, 2 parts, 3 parts, 4 parts, 5 parts, 6 parts, 7 parts, and there we have 8 parts. So we've divided our number line into 8 parts. So we can go ahead and add our label in. We have 1/8 there, 2/8 there, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8. Hopefully your handwriting will be better than mine. 6/8, 7/8, and of course 8/8. So you just made the eighths. Yeah. So you can see that 4/8 lines up with the 2/4, which would also line up with the 1/2. Are there any other fractions that probably line up pretty well? Ella? Yeah, Ella, you got it. Good job, Ella. You can see that the 1/4 lines up with the 2/8, and the 3/4 lines up with the 6/8. So those would be the same. Those would be equivalent fractions. 1/4 is equivalent to 2/8. All right, let's move on down here to the next one. We have thirds. So you got it. We're going to have 0/3 and 3/3. Now this was a little trickier. So now we have to look at our line and we have to try to guess. We're going to divide our line into 3 equal parts. And again, using your fraction bars will be a lot better to do that with. So this, of course, would be 1/3, and this would be 2/3. So how many thirds would be the same as 1/2? And 2/4 and 4/8. There are no thirds that would be exactly the same, are there? Because if there were, there would be a line here, and there isn't a line in that middle section. So nothing is equal to 1/2 when you're looking at thirds. Interesting, but there are things that will be equal, like when we move on to sixths. Oops, too far. We have 0/6 here, so that means we would have 6/6 there. Yeah. So we need to divide these lines into sixths. So I'll divide that one into half, and that one into half, and that one into half. So now we have 6 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Hopefully they're all about equal. So go ahead and fill in your sixth. You had 1/6, 2/6, and 3/6, 4/6, and of course 5/6. And there you have your 6/6. So Ethan, do you notice any fractions that are equivalent or the same? I'm waiting, Ethan. Yeah, Ethan, 1/3 is the same as 2/6. Does anybody know another equivalent fraction? Neva, you got it, Neva. 2/3 is the same as 4/6. Does anyone see another equivalent fraction? You might have to scroll up to the top. Anybody? What, Brody? Brody what? Yeah, Brody, 3/6 is the same as 4/8, which is the same as 2/4, which is the same as 1/2. So those are equivalent fractions. Yeah, fractions that are the same. They're equivalent. Yes. And there are many, many ways that you can find equivalent fractions. You could line up your fraction bars on top of each other. You could look for parts that are the same. And if you do remember what you do to the top and you do the bottom, you can do it that way too to make equivalent fractions. So today's lesson was just reviewing what equivalent fractions are. This is not part of your assignment, but if you are feeling the need, you could take a look at journal page 230 to see if you could find some equivalent fractions for 2/3 and equivalent fractions for 3/4. It's not graded, you don't have to, but if you want to challenge yourself, that page is certainly there waiting for you. Looking at tomorrow, we'll be reviewing our math boxes and looking at how your IXL X4 and X5 are going. So until tomorrow, my friends, I'm going to go back to reading my Easter books Yes, Easter books. Oh, by the way, I just might record one of them on Friday as an extra thing for you to do if you want to hear me reading about an Easter book. Check back with me on Friday. We will see you all tomorrow.